computer. There we go. Well, hello, everybody. We are doing something a little bit different here on this Fearlessly Feral podcast today. I have a guest with me. Her name is Cindy Hartzell. And am I pronouncing that correctly, Cindy?
Yes, you are.
Thank you. And I'm going to go through my little spiel here. Welcome to Fearlessly Feral Living. I am broadcasting to you from the Woogie Ranch out here in the back 40 of northwestern Nevada, where I'm a half an hour away from the nearest gas station and the nearest grocery store. This is a podcast devoted to using New Thought principles to ensure successful creative living. Fearlessly Feral is a focused ministry of Centers for Spiritual Living, and we are devoted to a vision of a world in which everyone lives fearlessly feral. In other words, wild and free. We blend spirituality and psychology to work from the inside out to promote successful, wild, and free living. And before I get started with my introduction today, I just wanted to mention that I'm doing a retreat. It's called the Ick to Joy Retreat. It's the fourth one that I have done with Equus Insight. I'm partnering with another horse lady who lives in Washoe Valley, which is 3 valleys over from me. And we are doing a day-long retreat on Saturday, June the 4th. We still have a couple of openings available. So if you are interested in signing up, let me know. You can get more information on my website, which will be in the show notes. So today, I am doing something really special, and I'm very honored to be able to feature this special guest today. Some of you might know, if you've listened to my podcast before, you do know that I've had some tiny little issues, which is kind of like being a little bit pregnant, tiny little issues with post-traumatic stress. Now, I've refused to call it a disorder because it's a very real and a valid reaction to shit happening. These issues mainly manifested as anxiety when I was riding my horse or thinking about riding my horse. I searched and searched and searched for someone to help me with this tiny little issue, which isn't really very tiny. And I found Cindy. And I sent her an email and I said, will you come out to my house? And she said, yes. And I said, great, come on out. And we have been working together once a week for about a year or so now. We are bearing missed weeks for weather and other related issues that pop up, but mostly once a week. We have made great progress. I am so grateful to this woman for what she has taught me. And she's got this special blend of horsemanship and coaching that really, really works. And she probably doesn't realize it, but she talks New Thought. She really does. She talks New Thought a lot in our conversations. So I asked her if she wanted to be a guest on my podcast, and she immediately said yes. And we had a preliminary conversation to discuss how we were going to do this podcast and what we were going to say and what we were going to talk about. Well, we talked for over an hour, and the things just flowed. It just flowed naturally. And we came up with 4 different topics. So this is not going to be a single podcast. It's going to be a series. This is the first in a series of 4, and maybe more. We'll see what happens. But today we're going to talk about beliefs. And we're going to talk about how beliefs, in New Thought, we teach that beliefs are the basis for what manifests in our lives. What we believe is what comes true for us. We also teach that beliefs can be changed. Change the belief and you change your life. So let's see what this wonderful and very talented woman has to say about this. I would love to introduce to you Cindy Hartzell. She is a horsemanship and transformational coach, and she studied horsemanship for over 21 years. In 2018, she launched Heart Soul Confidence-Based Horsemanship. She's a personal and professional transformational coach, and she teaches horse clinics and workshops and retreats and gives private lessons. In 2020, she created Pathway to True Unity online horsemanship program. She's a Gala certified in 2004. She became E3A certified in 2014. She began working with wild Mustangs in 2011, and she managed a herd of 130 rescued Nevada Mustangs for 18 months. She's the founder and president of Heart Soul Horses Helping Humans, Inc., a nonprofit organization established for Mustangs. And she's also a certified as an Art of Feminine Presence Level 1 teacher, a Reiki master teacher. I did not know that about her. An animal communicator, and she co-owns a veterinary practice with her husband. So Cindy, welcome to Fearlessly Feral. Welcome. And I would love for you to start us off by sharing a little bit more about your personal journey, if you wish, with horses and how they have worked with and for you in your life. And then we can jump into beliefs and how those things work for us in our lives. Welcome, Cindy. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Karen. I'm really excited to be here, and I just love our conversations together. They're deep and they're meaningful and they're funny and they're challenging at times in the sense of we both kind of push each other's belief systems, but that's all good. I have had horses all of my life. I got my first one when I was 11 years old, and horses have saved me on many, many occasions. I had a very traumatic childhood. I was abused sexually, mentally, physically, and emotionally. And being a intuitive, empathic being, all of my life, I leaned more towards animals than I did towards people, because animals are honest and people are not. Their thoughts don't match their actions and often their words, especially the adults who were given me to raise and care for. And the best thing they ever did for me was get me a horse when I was 11 years old. And that gave me freedom, taught me unconditional love, challenged me beyond belief. I got a little pony named Skagit, a little Welsh pony, and oh my God, I spent more time on the ground spitting dirt my first 9 months than I did I didn't have a saddle, so I was trying bareback all by myself. But anyway, I've had them all of my life. They have been my rock. And in 2004, when my teenage kids were out living life and I was witnessing their friends going through a lot of the same challenges that I had gone through as a teenager. And I remember sitting out with my horses one night, wondering how I could give back to these teens. How could I help? How could my horses help them? And I didn't want to do traditional horseback riding lessons and things like that. So that set me out on my journey of how can horses and I help? And that's where I found Igala, and that put me on that journey. I started studying horsemanship in 2000 because I wanted to be the best I could be for my horses. I witnessed Pirelli natural horsemanship off and on over my adult years. I grew up being a very close friend of Pat Pirelli's dad. I didn't know Pat, I knew his dad very well. And he sent me and my first colt to one of Pat's clinics. And so I started studying horsemanship in 2000. And gosh, not only have they helped me to just evolve and evolve and evolve into the person that I desire to be, but they've also helped me learn about relationships and then being able to branch out and do the equine assisted work with other people. I worked with a psychotherapist for about 4 years in Truckee with my horses, and just watching the transformations were amazing. So in 2018, I realized that I was ready to start. I had been assisting a horseman and doing clinics, and I was sprinkling my flavor of spirituality and animal communication and that deeper connection with the individuals that I was working with, and was really seeing some really positive movements in them and their horses. And so in 2018, I decided to step up and step out into horsemanship, and I've loved it. And, it's like, everything that we decide we want to explore is an opportunity to grow or to be defeated, depending on which way you want to go. And so they have truly, I believe I was born with horses in my blood. Saw the first one when I was 3, and I'll never forget it. And it's probably one of the few young memories I have. And they just are my life, and they are amazing teachers and healers if we allow them. And so I love to see us all of us who out there helping people with self-development and self-discovery. I love seeing more and more of us bringing the horses in, because they have so much to offer.
Thank you. Thank you. So in the realm of beliefs, you stated a belief early on in our conversation today. You said you had a belief that people, their walk doesn't match their talk. That's your belief. And now I'm very curious as to whether or not you still have that belief, or whether or not you've changed that belief, or whether or not that belief is in the process of changing. Because for me, if I have a belief that people do not walk their talk, it's going to create limitations for me in my life that I'm not going to be happy with. I had a similar childhood to yours, very, very similar, which is probably why we connect so well. But I never got that belief that people didn't walk their talk. I just got fierce. I got really fierce. And I said, well, some people are dangerous. That was my belief. Some people are dangerous, and I'm going to learn how to protect myself from them. And I got very, very fierce. But as time went on, pretty near everybody I met was dangerous. And so I got lonelier and lonelier and lonelier. And then I had a life crisis, and then I began to change that belief. And I went along merrily for many, many years, realizing that this belief that people were dangerous was something within me that really wasn't serving me very well. It was shutting me off. And not only was it shutting me off from other people, but it was shutting me off from what I like to call the sunlight of the spirit. And that was not acceptable to me. So I did change that belief. Now, lately, the last few years, a little bit of that's been coming back, and I'm having to work with that. And I'm still resting in this belief that people are inherently not dangerous. And what I've learned to do is set boundaries with that. I've learned to set boundaries so that there's more of a balance there. It's not an either or. It's not an either or kind of thing. And so that's kind of where I'm at with that particular belief. But I'm wondering if you want to speak to that belief you voiced. And if you're not comfortable doing that, is there another belief? Because sometimes people don't know what their beliefs are. They're like, I don't even know what a belief is. What's a belief? So I try to describe a belief, and we teach in my neck of the woods that yes, if you have a belief and it's not working so well for you, you can change it. And it probably protected you really, really well when you were young, and you developed that belief to protect yourself. And it did, it worked really well. But as we grow into adulthood, might be time sometimes to release that or change that a little bit. So where are you at with that belief?
So, first of all, I think where I want to start with that is, what is a belief?
Yeah.
A belief is simply something that you have thought over and over and over and over long enough that it becomes true for you in your mind, in your perspective. Or, you know, I believe that we have indoctrinated beliefs from when we're young. We're taught, you know, different things like good girls don't cry. I mean, you know, good girls don't hit, and boys don't cry. And, you know, I mean, we are being indoctrinated with beliefs. Black people are bad, white people are better. I mean, geez, we could just go on. But our belief systems start being coded into us from a very small age. And we also begin to develop our own belief systems based on what we keep experiencing over and over and over. Mm-hmm. You know, like, I'm a good girl. I'm a good girl when I don't backtalk and give my parent, you know, basically cater to my parents. My dad was very physically scary. And I learned how to be the good girl and get him the things he liked so that he didn't pick on me, he picked on my siblings. So then I learned that belief of, well, in order to stay out of trouble, this is how I behave. So anyway, that's my kind of a touching on the belief system, is we are creating new beliefs all the time, sometimes consciously, like you said, you decided to change that belief. And other times I believe it's unconsciously, just in interacting in society, or, you know, our behaviors and our habits can begin to create a belief system in us. So do I believe that people are incongruent, that they don't walk their talk, that what they're saying? And the answer is, like you said, some of them, yes. And for me, being empathic and in psychic, whatever you want to call it, I try to tune people out and focus that gift on animals, but you can't always turn it off. But as I have grown within myself, as I have done my own healing, I, like you, have realized that it's not always black or white. It's gray. And if I walk out the front door with the attitude of, people are just full of bullshit, they're not honest, they don't let you see what their motives are, you just can't trust them. Funny, there's a little situation going on here at the house right now where it's kind of like, I trusted you and you went ahead and did it anyway. So was that my belief system that I couldn't trust that? You know? So where am I going with this? I believe it begins with what we are thinking. You know, if I believe that everybody can't be trusted, then that's what I'm going to see. Whereas if I understand at times all of us are incongruent with what we say and what we feel, you know, so no, I don't hold that belief anymore. I'm choosing to consciously be aware of when it pops up and try to just kind of widen back and ask myself, what am I really seeing here? And what am I feeling about it? And how much is what I'm feeling about it being triggered from past experiences? Because often I will see, when I can kind of just pause and ask those simple questions, I will see that what's really going on in front of me isn't necessarily what I think I'm seeing.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So I'm glad to hear that about, beliefs there's a balance there. It's not all or nothing. It's not black and white. There's a gray area there. And in terms of, and I really was grateful to hear you talk about how as I healed, my belief began to change. Because in my neck of the woods, I call that as I change who and what I am and how I show up in the world. In other words, I change who I be. Then my beliefs begin to change. Then my perception of what's going on out there in the world begins to change. And in the case of working with my horse, I had to change who I be. And I've had to do that. That horse has taught me so much. My horse, for those of you who don't know, my horse's name is Sunny, and he's my first horse. I didn't start riding till I was in my 50s. I was not around horses when I was a kid. I was out running the streets. I was going crazy being fierce when I was a kid. So I didn't start riding till I was in my 50s. So Sunny is my first horse, and he has taught me so much. And we had a rocky beginning. At first, I was the only person in the barn that he liked. But then we started working together, and then all of a sudden he didn't want to be around me anymore. And I'm like, what's going on here? What's going on? I'd go out to the pasture to get him. He'd run away from me. And I couldn't catch him. And, that's about me. Because horses will reflect back to us who we be. And this is why I love horses so much, because I can go out and be with Sunny and my other horse, my mare, Annie, and be in a certain mood, and they'll look at me and go, yeah, right, we're just gonna go over here now. Or I can go out and be in a different frame of mind, and they'll say, oh, look, mom's here, let's go see what's going on. And I get the knickers and the whinnies and all that good stuff when that happens. It's amazing to me how they can tell when I'm 50 feet away from the corral what's going on. That's part of what I love about horses. And so in working with horses and being with the horses, I have to pay attention and be really fully aware and cognizant of who and what I be at any given moment. And that's invaluable to me. It's invaluable to me. And I'm in terms of my belief about people being dangerous, I never thought that Sunny was dangerous. Yet I still experience some of those symptoms sometimes. But I've learned that other horses can be dangerous. And I've learned that if I don't set boundaries, my horse can be dangerous. I've learned that if we don't develop a relationship, my horse is like, I don't want anything to do with you. I'm at the other side of the pasture. See you later. That kind of stuff goes on. And so the other thing I've learned from working with my horse is that changing who I be so that I am open to good, healthy communication with this thing called a horse. That doesn't really have a lot to do with beliefs, but it started with my belief. So I have a belief that my horse in particular, Sunny, he is good, he's kind, he's gentle. He adores me. He does. Yet he's still a horse. And so I have to remember that when I'm working with him and when I'm riding him and when I'm doing the stuff that I do with him. And so those are all beliefs. So the way that you take what's going on with the human, and then you take what's going on with the horse, and you merge these things together to produce something that is so incredibly valuable. And it does, it's some sort of I don't want to call it magical because it's, I mean, it is magical, but it's also, you know, this is a valuable stuff, this thing here. And yeah, it does start with beliefs. And you know, you come out and you teach what a horse believes. You teach how a horse believes. You teach how they think. You teach all of that stuff. I can't tell you how many times Cindy and I have been in a lesson and all of a sudden she'll pop out with, you know, you got to get the horse used to having your hands on his feet, because what if he's out in the, what if he gets caught in a fence and you need to unwrap that fence from his foot? He needs to know that it's okay for you to touch his foot. You know, that kind of stuff, just out of the clear blue sky. And I'm thinking, you know, where did that come from? It's wonderful. It's wonderful. So, you know, she shows up to these lessons fully engaged, ready to talk about whatever pops up here, and fully aware of all of the different beliefs and everything else that's going on, all this energy flying around with the horse and with the human that she's working with. And also the belief systems that are coming up into play as a result of that. I attended a clinic once given by Cindy and watched her. I just audited it because I didn't yet have a horse trailer and there was no way to get my horse there. Anyway, I audited this clinic and I watched this interaction and I watched the beliefs of the people that were attending the clinic come out. And I watched her patiently guide them through how they could look at things differently. And I really appreciated that. I really appreciated that a lot. Yeah. The belief thing is just so key for us.
Mm-hmm.
So key. Yeah.
It is. You know, you said several powerful things in there. You know, the first thing that I think I'll come to is you several times said learning to just be, learning to be. And to me, that's learning to be in the present moment, learning to have all your awareness on right here and right now. And that's what horses are masters at. They don't live in the past and they don't live in the present. In the future, they live right here, right now. And, you know, they can tell when you're walking from 50 feet away. They are reading your body language. They're reading your energy, because our intentions and our beliefs that are showing up that day are just the fuel that's running the vessel we call us. And so they, as they see us coming, they're summing us up. You know, are they friend or foe today? Are they my leader, or am I going to have to take the reins and be the leader? Because their safety depends on knowing who's the master, who's the leader in their herd. And every moment in a herd dynamic, every moment that can change. And so when we walk out, they're looking at us. Okay, does she got my back today, or do I need to have her back today? And they'll rise to that occasion. And what's so amazing about working with them is we have belief systems that are running behind the scenes that we don't even know exist, because they've been operating on autopilot for so long. But you bring a person into a pen with a horse, be it they're gonna do groundwork and get on and ride, or they're doing an equine assisted coaching session. They get in there with the horses, and the horses put them in the present moment because of their sheer size and their energy. And most of us that have chosen to step into a pen with a horse, it's because we're like, oh, a horse, you know, we're just drawn to them. So it lets all our defenses down, And those belief systems that are on autopilot that we don't even think about, we don't question, we just operate from, they start showing up. Well, having horses coursing through my blood, I read the horse. I let the horse tell me what they want me to know about that particular individual in that moment. And then I start observing that person and their behavior. And then I'll just start asking from a point of curiosity, what's going on? And you don't even have to mention the word beliefs. You can just ask them, why did you do that? Or why did that horse do that? And in their response will come their hidden belief. Mm-hmm. And what I love about this work, about working with people and the horses, it used to be I love to work with horses and not people, but I really am beginning to love people. Is we can't change what we're not aware of. Mm-hmm. So part of my opportunity is to help people begin to awaken their awareness. I don't want to point out what I see, what I'm aware of your horse or the horse or you. I want to awaken that awareness through curiosity and questions so that you do the introspection and you ask the questions of self, like, why did I do that? Or, wow, where did that come from? And then you start to discover your own belief systems. And then you get to decide how that serves you, but what I've found about the whole beliefs and working with the horses and having such powerful changes in the presence of the horses is because they help us to be in the present moment, because they're masters at reading their herd. Their lives depend on reading their herd. Mm-hmm. They have no judgment. They have no criticism. So they're just going to honestly give you immediate feedback on how you're showing up. And then you get to talk about it, think about it. Sometimes you're so blown away that you didn't even know that existed, that just learning to breathe and be present with that, the horses will support you through that. They create this nurturing container of, I got you. Go ahead and be with that aha of that crazy ass belief you didn't even know you were operating around. I got you. And other times you're like, oh yeah, that has been driving my ship forever, and I am so sick of it, and I don't know what to do with it. Then we can play with activities with the horses. And what I love about the horses is the horses will let them know, oh, that's perfect. Yes, I want to be with you. Let's do this. Let's do that. Or, that's first. And so they teach you how to explore your energy and your thoughts and your beliefs and your feelings. And they're like little barometers. You're getting very, 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 very hot. Oh, you're cold, 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 So they're amazing.
Yes. And I love that you talk about how horses can help us become aware of our beliefs. And as you were speaking, I thought, wow, that's another spiritual practice, because I see spiritual practice as anything we do that helps us become more aware of ourselves. And that I never quite looked at it that way. So that's a really neat awareness to have. Yeah. And a lot of times we are not aware of what our beliefs are, and we have no idea how to figure it out. And then along comes someone like you who says, well, the horse is telling you what your beliefs are. Yeah. Yeah. And I have a question for you. is there anything you do as a practice that helps you to become more aware of what your beliefs are? Besides working with the horses?
Are there any practices that I do? Well, I think one of the practices that I've been doing for several years now is when there's something that's going on around me or something keeps happening in my life, I will notice it. So I kind of want to backtrack a little bit as I answer this question. It begins with awareness. I mean, we are a species that actually surprisingly go through so much of our moment to moment existence completely unaware of what we're thinking, what we're saying, how we're behaving, what we're feeling. And so the first thing that I know I do is I have consciously decided to be more aware of how I'm showing up and what's going on around me. So say something keeps happening, like have you ever had those days where no matter where you go, everybody cuts in front of you? Like you're freaking invisible, and you're like, what the hell? Once it's like, okay, no big deal. And then it's, halfway through the day and it's happened 6 times. So when I find myself going, what the heck? I will stop and go, okay, I feel like nobody sees me. Like everybody's being so incredibly rude right now.
Mm-hmm.
So that will trigger me to say, well, what might somebody believe in order to be experiencing that? And then I'll just kind of get quiet and go, well, honestly, from the moment I got out of bed today, I felt insignificant. I felt unworthy. I felt like I wasn't making a difference in the world or making the kind of difference I want to make in the world. So yeah, that was the energy that was the energy suit. That was the belief system that I stepped out of bed and put on, and I've been going through my day in that. So that is one of the ways that I check in with my belief system, because we have our core beliefs. Those are harder to like really get in there and explore. But then we have those other beliefs that kind of ebb and flow like the tide. One day this flows in, the next day it flows out. Sometimes it stays for a long time. For me, it's when I start seeing, like, even when I'm having a good day, like today's been a phenomenal day business wise. And before we got on this call, I sat down and, got in my center and wanted to be fully present here with you and kind of asked myself, well, wow, what's so different about today? And it's that I am working on my belief system of being absolutely worthy, of having the thriving, purpose-filled business that I'm creating. And I sat before I even got out of bed this morning and sat with that feeling of embodying that. And then the day's not even halfway over and it's been incredible. So to me, that's where I play with the belief systems. And as you get used to questioning, well, what am I believing at this moment that makes me think that, or experience that, or see that, or feel that? And so, yeah, that's how I play with the beliefs. And then, like I said, those deeper core indoctrinated beliefs that are playing behind the scenes on auto, those are the ones that are a little bit trickier to get to.
They are tricky. Yeah. The worthiness, that unworthiness belief was a big one for me. huge. And they say when we're working with beliefs, they say that awareness is over half the battle. That if you become aware of something, you're over halfway there to changing it and correcting it and coming up with something that works more better, more better in our lives. And I became aware of this unworthiness thing in stages. And yet it seemed I was powerless to do anything about it. And I kept manifesting situations in which I wasn't worthy because I believed I wasn't worthy. And I worked on it and I worked on it and I worked on it. And eventually, the way that it finally totally and completely shifted for me was I was driving down the street, minding my own business. I was just listening to music and driving down the street. Might have been going to the grocery store or something. And in popped one of those icky, unworthy, you should have and you shouldn't have kind of thoughts. And immediately following that was a new voice that said, we're not thinking like that anymore. And I went, oh my God, I had to pull over. It was such a great aha moment. I had to pull over with the realization that that belief had fully changed for me. And it was like, wow. And spiritual practices, how did I become aware of that belief? And I call them spiritual practices. It's just where I come from and who I am. But they're just practices. Where I became aware of that belief was when I began to learn how to do these processes of self-exploration, of getting down to turning my attention away from what's going on out there, which meant I had to turn the blame away from what was going on out there and actually remove the word blame from my vocabulary because there's nothing and no one to blame. And turn it towards me and ask myself, okay, this is what's happening in my life now. I don't like it. How do I want it to be different? And then start to explore those kinds of things. And it took me a long time of doing that. And today that self-awareness piece is a practice that I do daily. It sounds like it's very similar to what you do, where I wake up in the morning and go, what's going on inside Karen today? What's happening here? And if what's happening here is something that I know is going to zap my energy or prevent me from doing the things I want to get done today, then I'm going to change it. I'm going to change it. Yeah.
I loved having you talk about that, driving down the road, minding your own business. And here comes that negative Nancy, popping in like, oh, let's pop that bubble of joy, and then here came that other voice. And, there's people who are yet to really embark on their spiritual journey. And they hear us talk about all these voices. And they act like we're crazy, or oh my God, maybe you should be seeing a psychiatrist. And I just laugh because we all have those voices going on inside. And what I love about your description is it really shows what spirituality really is. We are spiritual beings here in this physical world, empowered with mental and emotional and physical abilities. And that voice that came in and said, we're not doing that anymore, that is your spiritual higher self that actually has decided to take this earthly suit and have this human experience. And the ego, which is built on fear and belief systems and experiences. The ego is not a bad thing. The ego is here to keep us safe, but because we're not taught how to nurture mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual, We're just taught, basically from the time we're 3 on, we're taught to nurture mental and physical. Screw emotional and spiritual doesn't even exist. But in reality, a balanced human being is working in all 4 of those quadrants. That's what my pathway to true unity is about. It's not just for horsemen, people with horses, but it's also people who want to learn through horses. And it's learning to hear that higher voice that's guiding you through, oh, did you hear what you just said? Did you hear what that just said? Do you really want to go down that road? So you do literally start having that conversation with the ego. Shows up in many different voices, many different disguises based on the behaviors and the beliefs and the patterns that we've experienced through life. You know what I mean? They're not even good or bad. They're just experiences. So I think that I think spiritual practices is where I want to go with that. I think spiritual practices is exactly what we're doing. And that humanity is on the cusp of saying physical and mental is not working. And you and I and so many others around us that are that 1% that's taking that, that being the pioneers are saying, no, their spirituality and our emotions are our guidance system. We're spiritual beings, and homeostasis is the balance of all 4 experiencing joy. And our emotions pop in and say, whoa, 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 you're out of balance. And that is the opportunity to come back and use our tools that you're teaching and I'm teaching to help you come back to balance. So I just wanted to comment on your spiritual practices.
Thank you. Yeah. I know sometimes people think spirituality is a dirty word, but it really isn't. It really isn't. Yeah.
Mm-mm. I read this, the spiritual intelligence. There's a book out there about spiritual intelligence, and I love the definition of it.
Uh-huh.
It's the ability to, all right.
Yeah.
I say this to myself every morning. And of course, when I want to share it with another,
it's gone.
No, just give me it. It's in my phone. So bear with me 1 second, because
yes.
I refer to it all the time, because horses are spiritual beings.
Yes.
And okay, the definition of spiritual intelligence: the ability to behave with wisdom and compassion while maintaining inner and outer peace, regardless of the situation.
That's beautiful.
Is that not powerful? And
that's very powerful.
That an amazing belief.
Yes.
To adopt in every single thing we do.
Yes.
Sorry.
I was going to say, would you text that to me so I can add it to the show notes when we're done?
Yes.
And I also wanted to say that I think that is a perfect, because we're almost at an hour here.
Crazy, right?
I know, this is what happens, guys. This is what happens when Cindy and I get together. We start talking and lose track of time. I think that's the perfect way to end our discussion this morning as well. But you had something you wanted to say. Is it gone?
I don't think there's much. Oh, what I was going to say is I really, when I first saw this was when I was creating my Pathway to True Unity horsemanship program.
Yeah.
And I thought, I am going to take this new belief into the arena with every horse I work with.
Yes.
Can I behave with wisdom and compassion while maintaining inner and outer peace, regardless of the situation? Because you go out with a horse with, you got you got this plan with the horse, and you get out there and you got to forget all that. The horse has a different plan.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my goodness. So I just came up with another topic. We might have to do 5 in our series because we might have to talk about spirituality as well, Cindy.
I would love to. I
Oh.
would love to, because you know what? I believe humanity is on the cusp of a big spiritual awakening.
Yeah, yeah.
And it just, if we could teach some of this stuff to our little ones, in kindergarten through 3rd grade, I believe we would change the world in 4 generations.
I believe that we might change it in 1 or 2, but yes, I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're going to add spirituality to
Yes.
forgiveness. We're going to
Yeah.
talk about forgiveness one day. We're going to talk about spirituality. We're going to talk about fighting and how we fight back in effective ways, right? And we're going to talk about inclusion. And who knows what'll come up after that. This might turn into something much bigger than either of us dreamed, which is, who would have thought it, right, Cindy?
We are open to whatever spirit guides us to do, right?
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, I am going to put Cindy's website in the show notes. It is heartsoulhorsemanship.com. You can reach her there. She's also on Facebook, which is how we met. My website is fearlesslyferal.org. Both of those will be in the show notes. I thank you so much for joining us today and for listening. And I do hope that you will come back and join us again when we continue this series. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Karen.